We all know that our little ones need their naps, and we know that life is much better for everybody when they have a good, solid nap. However, sometimes it's quite a struggle to get our kids to nap. Today, we're going to talk about some issues surrounding napping for the preschooler. Does your child have a speech-language delay and you really want them to talk? Do difficult behaviors derail home life and you know the frustration is a communication struggle? Does your child see a speech therapist and you wonder, what do they do and how can I help? If these or similar questions are in your mind, this podcast is for you. Hello, my name is Dinalynn Rosenbusch. I am a speech-language pathologist that has worked with children from birth to 21 for 3 decades. And in my classrooms, I see you wanting to connect with the heart of your child, but their speech and language skills create a barrier. So if you have a kiddo that has difficult behaviors, needs to expand their language or learn to say speech sounds, and maybe even receives speech therapy, stay tuned, because in this podcast, you will learn how to use your daily life as a tool to communication practice and how to do that practice. You will become confident knowing you are making the difference you want to make. And you will hear success stories of parents who have navigated these struggles already. We'll do this all while focusing on building deep, meaningful connection and confidence in your kiddo. So grab a cup of coffee along with a notebook and pen. It's time to speak in the way your child's brain understands. And that is the language of play. Welcome back to the language of play. In the last 2 episodes, we had guests that were a little less common for our typical topics. In episode 206, you learned about Jeremiah Program, which is a nonprofit, and we were highlighting that because I was participating in Podcastathon, where podcasters from around the globe were highlighting the good things people are doing in various nonprofits. And then in episode 205, you heard from Jackie Bailey, and we talked about going to Costa Rica, and I would be teaching there with 10 and olders in family groups. And so if you are interested in going on a family excursion, an adventure this May that is fully taken care of for you and designed to build connection and cohesion in your family, this is a wonderful thing to do. You can contact me here at hello@thelanguageofplay, or you can go to the show notes and just click on the links. And remember, with Language of Play as a code, you get 20% off every member in your family. And you may also invite your friends to do it with you and get the 20% off. One of the heartbreaks that parents often mention to me is that when there's one child in the family that takes up more attention, the other children feel brushed aside, and parents feel like they're not paying as much attention to them as they want to. This opportunity would be a wonderful thing to do with those kiddos to help you build that connection with them and give them one-on-one attention that you so long to do. And for you parents that are listening, parents often ask, how do I get my kids to listen better? In the show notes, you will see a freebie that I have written just for you, giving you 5 ways that you can get your kiddo to listen better. And these are the 5 ways that have been really effective with the parents that I've worked with. So click in the show notes and you will have that sent to your inbox. Now let's get into today's episode. Today we are talking about when your preschooler does not nap. And we know that they do better when they nap, but yet they don't always nap because they're transitioning out of naps. And yet they don't always hold their wits together, do they, when they haven't had the nap? So what is a parent to do and what can we expect? So let's talk about it. The first thing I want to bring up is a mistake. And as parents, we tend to think either black or white about raising our kids, such as they get to a certain age, so they should be doing X. Well, there's a transition. This isn't going to be the experience where they don't know and then they do know. Rather, this is that they sometimes need a nap And sometimes they can have a nap, and sometimes your schedule will require them to stay awake, and sometimes they just simply will stay awake. So I think that we need to backpedal as parents and think about what it is that we really need to do in this phase. Always, before I even go on, I want you to always trust your gut. And if your gut says right now they should have some kind of quiet time, whether or not they fall asleep, of course you're hoping they do, but whether or not they do, follow your gut. But you can't make someone sleep. You can provide the environment where it's conducive. You can set a stage where it's going to happen well, but you can't make them sleep. So if I was to backpedal out and try to look from a higher level view with a kiddo that is 3, 4, maybe even 5, here's what I would do. I would like you to go at it as an invitation to sleep. And not because the child so much needs the invitation, but because if we stay in the mind of I'm inviting, then we don't get mad when they don't comply. When we get mad at them for not complying with sleep, our tension will actually backfire for us, and they will stay awake because of our negative energy. Kids can feel the mood, the tension in the air much quicker and easier than any adults do. And they don't know how to process it. They don't know how to handle it. They do not know what is theirs and what is not theirs. So if you have tension about anything, they'll feel that tension and they will react to it. So the first thing, go towards the nap as an invitation. Now, this is not to say you don't tell them actually to sleep. I am talking more so about how your mind is framed, because when they do get older, they don't know how to necessarily put themselves to sleep. And if your success is based on them falling asleep, then we have a big chance of failure, and that comes along with all kinds of other emotions. Now, what can we require at nap time? We can require them to stay. We can require them to be quiet. One of the phrases that I said to my kids, and I still use with my grandchildren today, is shut your mouth, shut your eyes, and stay. And you'll notice that I said it in a very pleasant, positive tone, and it's like a challenge set before them. I also tell them, you don't have to sleep, but here's what you need to do. That way, they have something really tangible. Falling asleep can be pretty ambiguous for a kid because they don't know how they do it. Sometimes when they're little like that, they still shut their eyes and they'll tell you, I'm sleeping, because they associate shut eyes with sleep. So if you tell them something like, you don't have to sleep, then they're relaxed because they're not trying so hard. And then you give them the rules. Your job is to shut your eyes, and it's just straightforward. Shut your mouth. And we're not saying it like, shut your mouth. We're just telling them what they're to do with their mouth. And then stay. And when they get up from the nap and they haven't done those things, you can ask them, did you stay? And if they answer no, you know for sure that they do understand what you're requiring of them. And if they answer yes, you will know that they don't actually understand that you want them to stay indefinitely. They may have thought, I did. Not, depending on how old they are, not too different from a puppy when you're training them and you say stay, and they literally stay for 4 or 5 seconds, and then they pop back up, happy as can be, not knowing that you meant to stay longer or to stay until I tell you otherwise. You can do the same when you ask the question, is your mouth shut? I find this one funny because kids will often say, yes, it's shut, see? And then they close their mouth to show you. Which obviously is not what we expect, but it's their understanding of shut your mouth is like a task such as eating. And so you'll need to do a little bit of teaching about keeping your mouth shut. Always remember that your child's behavior is an indication into what they actually understand. Their behavior is communication for you to read so that you can figure out what actually is going on. I find this also works when you've got a child that is obstinate and they just don't want to. You can then put your instructions of shut your eyes, shut your mouth, and stay. You can put that into smaller terms for them. Maybe you're only going to require stay. Or maybe you're going to require those 3 things for only 5 minutes. You have to go into your own parental discernment to guess what's going to work right for your kiddos. But do remember that as their behavior is an indicator into what they are understanding, it is also an indicator into what it is that they're feeling. And when you can calm them down from, if they're ornery, maybe they're feeling angry, maybe they're feeling tired and they're fighting it, maybe they're feeling hungry, maybe they're feeling lonely. There's so many things that a child could be feeling and not have the words for it. So we need to try to figure out what's going on and see if we can calm that part. There are children's meditations and so many other things that we can use. Now, moving on from the concept of actually getting them to sleep, I want to move into the bigger part of this, which is, what are we actually doing in this transition time with our kids? And I want to propose to you that what we are doing is we are teaching them to handle weird feelings inside of them, such as overtired, and behaving correctly anyway. Now, we know this is hard even for adults. If you are sleep deprived, you don't think very well, and you don't behave very well, even though you are mature enough to do so. So you try to get very concrete with your kiddos. You say things like, okay, you didn't nap today, and that is okay. Later on tonight, if you get ornery, you still do not hit your brother. You do not yell at mom. We are happy. So you get to stay awake as long as you're happy. And if you get grumpy at me, we're going to let you rest. Notice those words. You're going to let him rest. You have spelled out exactly, hit your brother. And you told him, you may not. At the preschool age, you need to give them concrete behaviors that you do and do not want them to do. I said you need to be happy still. Now, this is a behavioral type of happy because, again, they are concrete thinkers at that stage. This is the beginning of helping them understand self-control, the beginning of them identifying some of those feelings inside of them a little bit better. So giving them the vocabulary to match their situation is really valuable. Your opportunity when they are misbehaving during this stage where they need sleep but can't is a great time to teach them the vocabulary and to help them understand some of the feelings inside of their body and to start relating it to sleep while you're also affirming your love for them even when they don't feel well. And this kind of not feel well, of course, is the overtired not feeling well. And when kids feel icky, they tend to think that they are icky. So we are affirming their value, we are affirming our love, and it gives so much foundation for the next phases in life. When you stay objective and you don't take it personally, and you set yourself back a little bit as if watching a movie screen of your child misbehaving or having a tantrum or whatever's going on. If you can set yourself back, not think of it personally, not let it bother you for sound, like it's too loud or something, what you end up doing is giving them courage when they're in the midst of those frightful feelings. Because sometimes kids will feel a feeling and get afraid of the feeling, and it has nothing to do with outside of you. But then when they get afraid of the feeling, they have the feeling stronger, so they get more afraid. And so they get in a loop of reacting to the fearful feeling inside of them, which might be just a big feeling such as anger or anything, really. It's kind of like I was just with a newborn not too long ago, and the newborn made a squeak, like a loud squeak, and it startled her. And so then she cried because she startled herself, which made her cry more. This pattern of having something startle and you really don't have an understanding of the situation and what's going on, this is still prevalent, just in a more sophisticated way. Can you help your child see a good way to expend the energy when they're angry, such as let them go punch the couch, let them scream into a pillow, let them run in circles around the backyard, and then tell them, louder, hit it again, do it more, until they get that excess energy spent. And then you can go back to the conversation of, yeah, sometimes we feel like this when we don't sleep. The long-range outcome of this, again, is that you are on their side. They know you love them unconditionally. They know you see and hear them for what they're saying, and you are separating their behavior from the value of who they are. You end up showing them that you're not afraid of the bad behaviors or the big feelings when they are misbehaving, which means they grow in their confidence, their value, and their worth. And I'm sounding like this is easy, but I know it isn't. And part of the job of this in parenting is growing ourselves in our own awareness so that we can step back and observe and not take things personally. Because really, when we are overwhelmed, it can't come from what's outside of us. We truly don't become overwhelmed by things outside of our environment. It is our internal understanding or our internal story we have about the situations that make it overwhelming. And that is another topic. So for nap times, of course, we try to get our kiddos to sleep when we see or know that they are going to be needing that rest. But when it doesn't happen, and it won't sometimes, then we remember these strategies. This transition time into not napping is a beautiful time for you to build them up for who they are so that they can become aware of themselves and responsible for themselves and to see themselves as whole and complete, even when they don't feel that way. And this is because you're validating the experience that they are having. So that's it. And during this time, kids will have a particularly difficult time listening. And this situation is one where if you grab that download, 5 ways to get your kids to listen better. And remember, this is just 5, but they're very effective ways. But these are just 5 ways, so it's doable. It's easy enough. It's things you can do differently to enhance their capability to listen. And when they haven't napped, these strategies will be really helpful. So go down to the show notes and copy and paste the link into your browser, or just click on the link if you have an iPhone and get yourself signed up for 5 ways to get your kids to listen better, because this is one situation where it specifically will make a huge difference for you. Happy spring, and we'll see you next time. Hey parents, I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who also lives or works with children? I would really appreciate it if you would leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I read every review, and it lights me up to know that this show is making a difference. Then come join my Facebook community, where you'll meet other parents who are dedicated to helping their children grow too. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for joining me. Now it's time to go. Let's pop our kiddos in the strollers and go look around outdoors and see what we have to talk about.